Maya Richardson always sat in the same spot every day. Third table from the left, right next to the big window in the cafeteria. She liked that spot because the sunlight came through just right, and she could see the oak tree outside swaying in the wind. It gave her something peaceful to look at when things got rough, and things got rough a lot at Riverside High School. Maya was 15 years old, quiet as a mouse, and honestly, she preferred it that way. She wasn't the type to raise her hand in class unless the teacher called on her directly. She wasn't the type to join clubs or try out for teams. She just wanted to get through high school, get good grades, and maybe one day become an engineer like she'd always dreamed. Her notebook was filled with drawings of bridges and buildings, little sketches she'd make during lunch while other kids laughed and talked around her. Maya had learned a long time ago that being invisible was safer than being seen. At least that's what she thought. But there was one person who always seemed to see her, Jason Hendricks. Jason was everything Maya wasn't. Tall, confident, popular. He was the captain of the basketball team, and everyone at school knew his name. He had that easy smile that made teachers like him and that swagger that made other students want to be around him. But Maya had seen the other side of Jason, the side he showed when no adults were watching. It started small like these things always do. A comment here, a laugh there. "Hey, why are you always so quiet?" he'd say, loud enough for his friends to hear. "Cat got your tongue?" His friends would laugh and Maya would pretend she didn't hear, burying her face deeper into her textbook. Then it got worse. He'd walk by her desk and accidentally knock her books onto the floor. He'd bump into her in the hallway hard enough to make her stumble. Once he took her homework right off her desk and held it above his head, making her jump to try to get it back while his friends filmed it on their phones. Maya never told anyone. Not her teachers, not the counselor, not even her mom. She figured it would just make things worse. Jason would get a slap on the wrist, maybe detention, and then he'd come back angrier than before. That's how these things worked, right? But yesterday, something changed. Maya came home with a bruise on her arm from where Jason had grabbed her, and her mom noticed. Dr. Diane Richardson didn't miss much. She was a federal prosecutor, the kind of lawyer who put dangerous criminals behind bars. She had sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. "Baby, what happened to your arm?" her mother had asked, her voice gentle but concerned. Maya had tried to lie, tried to say she just bumped into something, but her mom wasn't buying it. After 20 minutes of patient questioning, the whole story came pouring out. 6 months of bullying, harassment, and humiliation. Maya cried while she told it, surprised by how much it hurt to finally say the words out loud. Her mother's face had gone very still, very calm. That's when Maya knew things were about to change. Her mother had that same expression in the courtroom, right before she destroyed a witness's credibility. It was the calm before the storm. "You're not going to school tomorrow," her mother had said. "I'm taking the day off and we're going to handle this." And now it was today. Maya sat at her usual table, her physics book open in front of her, but she couldn't focus on the words. Her mother was somewhere in the building right now, probably in Principal Stevens' office, probably making him very uncomfortable. Maya felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. Relief that someone finally knew, that she wasn't carrying this alone anymore. Anxiety about what would happen next. The cafeteria was loud with the usual lunchtime chaos. Students laughed, chairs scraped against the floor, trays clattered. Maya tried to make herself smaller, hoping that maybe today would be different, that maybe Jason would leave her alone. But then she heard his voice, and her stomach dropped. "Well, well, well. Look who's here!" Jason's voice cut through the noise around her. She didn't look up. Maybe if she ignored him, he'd go away. "Hey, I'm talking to you." His friends circled around her table like sharks. Maya recognized them all. Tyler, who played forward on the basketball team. Marcus, who thought he was a comedian. Brad, who just followed Jason around like a puppy. They were all looking at her with that same mean glint in their eyes. "You studying again?" Jason said, leaning over her table. "Don't you ever do anything fun?" "Oh wait, you probably don't have any friends to do fun stuff with." His friends laughed right on cue. Maya's hands tightened around her pencil. "Just ignore them," she told herself. "Just a few more minutes and the bell will ring." But Jason wasn't done. He never was. He walked around to her side of the table, and before she could react, he kicked the leg of her chair. Hard. Maya jolted forward, her chest hitting the edge of the table, knocking the wind out of her. Her physics book slid across the table and fell to the floor with a loud thump. The cafeteria got a little quieter. People were watching now. "Oops," Jason said, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Sorry about that. Didn't see you there. You're just so quiet and small it's like you don't even exist." Maya's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Her hands were shaking as she bent down to pick up her book. This was it, the moment she'd been dreading. Everyone was watching, phones were probably out recording, and she was completely alone. Or so she thought. Because at that exact moment, the cafeteria doors opened. The woman who walked through them moved with purpose, her heels clicking against the floor like a countdown. She wore a navy blue suit that meant business, and her natural hair was pulled back in an elegant bun. Her eyes swept the cafeteria, taking in the scene. And when they landed on Jason standing over Maya, something dangerous flashed across her face. Maya looked up and felt a wave of relief so strong it almost made her cry. Her mother had arrived. And from the look on Dr. Diane Richardson's face, Jason Hendricks was about to learn a lesson he'd never forget. The cafeteria had gone almost completely silent now. Students sensed something big was about to happen. Some of them had their phones out, already recording. Jason, still standing over Maya, hadn't noticed the woman approaching yet. He was too busy enjoying the moment, too busy feeling powerful. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was thinking that Maya was alone. His third mistake was thinking he could get away with it. Dr. Richardson walked through the cafeteria like she owned it, and in a way, she did. She owned every space she entered. That's what confidence and authority did. Students moved out of her way without even realizing they were doing it. She walked straight toward her daughter, and her eyes never left Jason. Maya saw the moment Jason noticed her mother. His smile faltered. He straightened up, suddenly looking less sure of himself. He glanced at his friends, who were also staring at this intimidating woman heading their way. "Who's that?" Tyler whispered, but nobody answered. Dr. Richardson stopped about 5 feet away from Jason. She looked at him, then at her daughter, then back at him. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but it carried across the entire cafeteria. "Remove your foot from near my daughter. Now." Jason looked down, realizing he was still standing way too close to Maya, his posture aggressive. He took a step back, trying to play it cool. "I don't know what you're talking about, ma'am. We were just—" "I said now." Dr. Richardson's voice dropped even lower, and somehow that made it even more terrifying. Jason stumbled backward, and Maya quickly gathered her things, standing up. Her mother's hand touched her shoulder briefly. A silent question, "Are you okay?" Maya nodded, and her mother's attention turned fully to Jason. The storm was here, and Jason Hendricks was standing right in the middle of it. Jason Hendricks had been in trouble before. Detention for talking back to teachers, suspension for fighting, warnings for his attitude. But he'd always gotten out of it. His parents were important people in town. His dad owned 3 car dealerships, and his mom was on the school board. Usually, a phone call from them would make problems disappear. But standing in front of Dr. Diane Richardson, Jason felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Real fear. "Let me introduce myself," the woman said, her voice calm but somehow more threatening than if she'd been yelling. "I'm Dr. Diane Richardson. I'm Maya's mother, and I'm a federal prosecutor." Jason's face went pale. He knew what a prosecutor was. His uncle had gotten in trouble with the law a few years back, and Jason remembered the family talking in hushed voices about the prosecutor who wouldn't back down. He hadn't connected that this could be the same kind of person. "I make my living putting people who hurt others in prison," Dr. Richardson continued. She took a step closer to Jason, and he instinctively took a step back. "I know every law about assault, harassment, and battery. I know how the legal system works. And I know that what you just did to my daughter was assault." "I didn't assault anyone," Jason said quickly, his voice cracking a little. I barely touched her chair. It was just a joke." "A joke?" Dr. Richardson's eyebrow raised. "So you think physically intimidating someone smaller than you is funny? You think making someone afraid is entertainment?" The cafeteria was dead silent now. Everyone was watching. Jason could feel dozens of eyes on him, dozens of phones recording. This was going to be all over social media in minutes. His mind raced, trying to figure out how to get out of this. "Look, maybe I was messing around a little," he said, trying to sound reasonable. "But it's not that serious. Maya knows I'm just playing." "Don't you dare say her name," Dr. Richardson cut him off, her voice like ice. You don't get to speak her name. You don't get to minimize what you've done. And you certainly don't get to tell me what my daughter knows or feels. She pulled out her phone and Jason's stomach dropped. I have documentation of 12 separate incidents of you harassing my daughter over the past 6 months. Dates, times, witnesses. My daughter kept a journal because she's smart and she knew someday she might need proof. Jason's mouth went dry. 12 incidents? He didn't even remember half of them. They were just small things, just messing around. How could Maya have written them all down? I also have medical records, Dr. Richardson continued, her voice never rising but somehow getting more intense. Records from when Maya started having anxiety attacks and had to see a doctor. The doctor asked her if anything stressful was happening at school. She told him everything. Mrs. Richardson, I really think... Jason started, but she held up her hand. It's Dr. Richardson, and I'm not finished. She looked around the cafeteria, making eye contact with several students. I see all of you with your phones out. Good, keep recording. Because what I want everyone here to understand is that bullying isn't just mean words or hurt feelings. It has real consequences. Legal consequences. Principal Stevens had finally arrived, followed by 2 security guards. He looked flustered, his tie askew, and he was slightly out of breath. Dr. Richardson, please, let's take this to my office. Why? Dr. Richardson turned to him, and the principal actually took a step back. So we can have another private conversation where you tell me that kids will be kids? Where you suggest that maybe Maya is too sensitive? No thank you, Principal Stevens. I think we're done with private conversations. Now wait just a minute. The principal started, but Dr. Richardson cut him off again. Do you know how many times my daughter reported Jason's behavior? 3 times. 3 separate times she went to different teachers and told them what was happening. And do you know what happened? Nothing. One teacher told her to ignore it. Another said boys sometimes pick on girls they like. The third said she'd look into it, and then Maya never heard anything again. Principal Stevens's face was turning red. Some of the students were nodding, remembering times they'd reported bullying and been ignored. This was hitting too close to home for a lot of them. My daughter is quiet, Dr. Richardson said, her voice softening slightly as she glanced at Maya. She's always been that way. She's thoughtful, careful with her words, observant. Those are good qualities. Those are strengths. But people like Jason see quiet as weak. They see kind as an easy target. She turned back to Jason, who was now visibly shaking. You picked on my daughter because you thought she wouldn't fight back. You thought she'd just take it. And for 6 months she tried to handle it the right way. She reported it. She tried to ignore you. She hoped it would stop. But it didn't stop, did it? It got worse. Jason couldn't speak. His throat felt tight, and he was suddenly aware of how many people were staring at him. His friends had slowly backed away, leaving him standing alone. Today you physically intimidated her. You kicked her chair while she was sitting, causing her to hit the table. That's assault. Everyone here saw it. Everyone recorded it. Dr. Richardson held up her phone again. And now I'm going to do what the school should have done months ago. I'm going to make sure there are real consequences. Dr. Richardson, Principal Stevens tried again, his voice pleading now. Let's please discuss this in my office. I'm sure we can come to some understanding. An understanding? Dr. Richardson laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to sweep this under the rug like you've swept everything else? No. Here's what's going to happen. I'm filing a restraining order against Jason. He won't be allowed within 100 feet of my daughter. I'm also filing a civil lawsuit against him, his parents, and this school for creating a hostile environment and failing to protect my daughter. The cafeteria erupted in whispers. Jason felt like he might throw up. A lawsuit? A restraining order? This couldn't be happening. Furthermore, Dr. Richardson continued, raising her voice slightly to be heard over the murmurs. I've been in contact with 7 other families whose children have also been bullied at this school with no action taken. We're organizing. We're going to the school board, the superintendent, and if necessary, the Department of Education. Principal Stevens looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. This was his worst nightmare. Not just one angry parent, but multiple families organized with a federal prosecutor leading them. Jason Hendricks, Dr. Richardson said, turning her full attention back to the teenager. I want you to understand something. Your actions have consequences. Not just detention or suspension. Real consequences that will follow you. College applications ask if you've ever been subject to a restraining order. They ask about legal issues. You're a basketball player, right? You think scouts want to recruit someone with a history of violence? Jason's eyes widened. He hadn't thought about that. Basketball was his ticket to college, maybe even a scholarship. His whole future was built around that. But here's what I want more than anything, Dr. Richardson said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. I want you to feel what you made my daughter feel. Helpless, scared, small. I want you to lie awake at night wondering what's going to happen next. I want you to walk through these halls knowing that everyone is watching you, judging you, because that's what Maya has been living with for 6 months because of you. There were tears in Jason's eyes now, though he tried to blink them away. This woman was destroying his entire life in front of everyone. Mom, Maya said softly, touching her mother's arm. Can we go now? Dr. Richardson's expression softened immediately when she looked at her daughter. Yes, baby. We can go. She put her arm around Maya's shoulders and started to guide her toward the cafeteria exit. But then she stopped and turned back one more time. Oh, and Jason? Your parents are being called to the school right now. I suggest you prepare yourself for that conversation, because when they hear what you've been doing, and when they hear about the lawsuit I'm filing, I don't think they're going to be very happy with you. With that, Dr. Diane Richardson walked her daughter out of the cafeteria, leaving behind a room full of stunned students, a panicking principal, and one terrified bully who was just beginning to understand that his actions had finally caught up with him. Jason stood frozen in place, feeling hundreds of eyes on him. His phone started buzzing in his pocket. Probably his parents calling. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold it. The video of what just happened was probably already spreading across social media. For the first time in his life, Jason Hendricks realized that being popular, being good at basketball, and having rich parents couldn't protect him from the consequences of being cruel. And that realization was more terrifying than anything Dr. Richardson had said. Thomas and Patricia Hendricks arrived at Riverside High School 30 minutes after receiving the principal's phone call. Thomas was a big man, used to getting his way through a combination of charm and intimidation. Patricia was elegant, always perfectly dressed, and skilled at smoothing over her son's mistakes with the right words to the right people. But walking into Principal Stevens' office and seeing Dr. Diane Richardson sitting there with a lawyer, they both knew this situation was different. Mr. and Mrs. Hendricks, thank you for coming, Principal Stevens began nervously. There's been an incident. Let me save everyone some time, Dr. Richardson interrupted, her voice professional but cold. Your son has been systematically bullying my daughter for 6 months. Today, he physically assaulted her in front of dozens of witnesses. I have documentation, medical records, and video evidence. I'm filing a restraining order and a civil lawsuit. Patricia Hendricks's hand flew to her chest. Now wait a minute. No, Dr. Richardson said firmly. You wait. I'm going to show you something. She turned her laptop around and the screen showed security footage from the school hallways. The timestamp showed it was from 3 months ago. On the screen, Jason was walking behind Maya. When they reached a corner where no adults were visible, he shoved her into the lockers, hard. Maya dropped her books and Jason laughed before walking away. The Hendricks watched in silence as Dr. Richardson played clip after clip. Different days, different incidents, but always the same pattern. Jason targeting Maya when he thought no one important was watching. Oh my God, Patricia whispered, her face going pale. Jason, is this true? Jason sat in a chair in the corner, his head down, saying nothing. He'd never seen these videos before. He hadn't known the school had cameras in those hallways. Thomas Hendricks cleared his throat, falling back on his usual approach. Look, Dr. Richardson, I can see you're upset and you have every right to be. Boys can be rough sometimes, and Jason clearly crossed a line. But surely we can work something out. I'm prepared to make a substantial donation to the school, and of course we'll pay for any therapy your daughter might need. You think you can buy your way out of this? Dr. Richardson's laugh was sharp. Your son didn't just cross a line, Mr. Hendricks. He terrorized a 15-year-old girl for half a year. He made her afraid to come to school. He caused her so much anxiety that she needed medical treatment. And you want to throw money at it? She stood up, gathering her materials. Let me be very clear about something. I don't want your money. I don't want your apologies. What I want is for your son to face real consequences for his actions. Because right now, the lesson he's learning is that being cruel is okay as long as Daddy can write a check. Thomas Hendricks's face reddened. He wasn't used to people talking to him this way. Now see here, no, you see here, Dr. Richardson cut him off. I prosecute criminals for a living. I've dealt with murderers, drug dealers, and every kind of terrible person you can imagine. And do you know what they almost all have in common? They started small. They were bullies as kids and nobody stopped them. Nobody made them understand that hurting people has consequences. So they kept going, kept escalating, until one day they did something they couldn't come back from. She looked directly at Patricia Hendricks. Is that what you want for your son? Because right now he's on that path. He thinks he's untouchable because you've always protected him. But I'm not going to let him hurt my daughter anymore. And if that means making him face legal consequences, so be it. Patricia was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Jason, why would you do this? Jason finally looked up, his voice small. I don't know, Mom, Everyone thought it was funny. She never said anything, so I thought it didn't matter. It didn't matter? Dr. Richardson's voice rose for the first time. My daughter stopped eating lunch because she was afraid to be in the cafeteria. She started having nightmares. She asked me if we could move to a different city. But it didn't matter? The room fell silent. Even Principal Stevens, who had been trying to mediate, didn't know what to say. Dr. Richardson took a deep breath, composing herself. The restraining order is happening. The lawsuit is happening. But there's more you should know. She pulled out another folder, even thicker than the first. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been contacted by 7 other families. Their children have also been bullied at this school, and just like with Maya, the administration did nothing. Principal Stevens's face went white. Dr. Richardson, I assure you we take all complaints seriously. Do you? She opened the folder, pulling out documents. Here's a complaint from the Martinez family from last year. Their son was being called racial slurs and physically threatened. They reported it 3 times. Nothing happened. Here's one from the Chen family. Their daughter was being sexually harassed. They met with you personally, Principal Stevens. You told them you'd handle it. You didn't. She spread more papers across the desk. The Patterson family, the Johnson family, the Rodriguez family. All of them reported serious bullying. All of them were ignored. And I've noticed something interesting. Most of these families are families of color, and most of the bullies are white students from wealthy families. The implications hung in the air like a heavy fog. Principal Stevens started to speak, but Dr. Richardson held up her hand. I'm not saying you're intentionally racist, Principal Stevens, but your pattern of inaction creates a system where certain students are protected and others aren't. That's discrimination, whether you meant it or not. And that's why this lawsuit names not just Jason, but the school and the district. Thomas Hendricks found his voice again. You can't prove any connection between Jason and these other cases. I don't need to, Dr. Richardson said calmly. The lawsuit against Jason is separate, but the case against the school includes all of these families. We're claiming that the school created and maintained a hostile environment, particularly for students of color. We have documentation, we have witnesses, and we have a pattern of behavior spanning multiple years. She let that sink in before continuing. The media is going to love this story. Federal prosecutor takes on school district over racial discrimination and bullying. I've already been contacted by 3 news outlets who heard about what happened in the cafeteria today. That video has 500,000 views already. Patricia Hendricks gasped. It's online? Of course it's online, Dr. Richardson said. Dozens of students recorded it. Jason assaulting Maya and me confronting him about it. Everyone can see exactly what happened. Jason felt sick. 500,000 views. His basketball coaches would see it. His teammates, college scouts, everyone would know what he'd done. My son made a mistake, Patricia said desperately. A terrible mistake, but he's just a kid. My daughter is also just a kid, Dr. Richardson replied, her voice softer now but no less firm. But she had to grow up fast because of what your son did to her. She had to learn to document evidence, to build a case, to protect herself, because the adults around her failed to do it. That's not fair, Mrs. Hendricks. She gathered her belongings and prepared to leave. The restraining order will be served within 24 hours. Jason is not to come near Maya, period. If he violates it, he'll be arrested. The civil suit will be filed by the end of the week. I suggest you get a good lawyer. What about Jason's education? Thomas asked. He's got college scouts interested. He's got a future. He should have thought about that before he decided to torment someone for 6 months, Dr. Richardson said bluntly. Actions have consequences, Mr. Hendricks. Your son is learning that the hard way. She walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I hope Jason does learn from this. I hope he becomes a better person. But that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to protect my daughter and make sure this doesn't happen to another child. That's exactly what I'm going to do. As Dr. Richardson left the office, the Hendricks family sat in stunned silence. Their perfect life, their perfect son, everything they'd built was crumbling because of one video, one confrontation, one mother who refused to back down. Jason looked at his parents and saw something he'd never seen before. Disappointment. Not the kind that goes away after a lecture and a grounding. Real, deep disappointment. His mother was crying. His father looked defeated. And Jason realized that maybe for the first time in his life, his parents couldn't fix this for him. Principal Stevens cleared his throat awkwardly. Mr. and Mrs. Hendricks, we should discuss Jason's status at the school. Given the restraining order, don't, Thomas Hendricks said tiredly. Just don't. We need to go home and figure this out. As the family left the school, Jason noticed students staring at him in the hallways. Some looked angry, some looked satisfied, and some just looked curious. His phone kept buzzing with notifications. Text messages, social media tags, comments on the video. He didn't want to look, but he couldn't help himself. The comments were brutal. Finally getting what he deserves. I always knew Jason was a jerk. This is what happens when rich kids think they can do whatever they want. Each comment was like a punch to the gut. In the car ride home, nobody spoke. Patricia cried quietly in the passenger seat. Thomas gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. Jason sat in the back, feeling smaller than he ever had in his life. This was supposed to be his year. His team was supposed to make it to the state championship. Scouts were supposed to be watching his games. College was supposed to be his escape from this small town. Now all of that was in jeopardy. Because of what he'd done to a quiet girl who just wanted to be left alone. A girl he'd barely even thought of as a real person. Just an easy target for him and his friends to mock. For the first time, Jason thought about what Maya must have felt like. Coming to school every day, not knowing when he'd show up, what he'd do, how he'd humiliate her. The fear of seeing him in the hallway. The dread of lunchtime. The anxiety that probably followed her even when she went home. He'd done that to her. He'd made her life miserable because it made him feel powerful, because his friends thought it was funny because he could. And now he was going to pay for it. The question was whether he'd learn from it or just resent it. That choice was his to make. But first he had to survive the consequences of his actions. And sitting in the back of his parents' car, watching his entire life fall apart through social media comments, Jason wasn't sure how he was going to do that. 2 weeks had passed since the cafeteria incident, and Riverside High School felt like a different place. Not necessarily better, but definitely different. The video of Dr. Richardson confronting Jason had exploded across social media, far beyond their small town. News outlets had picked it up. Parent groups were sharing it. Educational websites were using it as an example of how to address bullying. Jason Hendricks had become internet famous for all the wrong reasons. He walked through the school hallways now like a ghost. The restraining order meant he had to take different routes between classes. Had to leave 1 minute early or late from each class to avoid any possibility of crossing paths with Maya. Not that it mattered much, since Maya had transferred to Riverside Academy, the private school across town. But the order was in place and Jason had to follow it. His former friends had scattered like leaves in the wind. Tyler and Marcus still played basketball with him, but they didn't hang out anymore. They didn't text him, didn't invite him to anything. Brad had completely ghosted him. The message was clear. Being associated with Jason Hendricks was social suicide right now. Coach Williams had called Jason into his office 3 days after the incident. The conversation was short and brutal. "You're suspended from the team pending the outcome of the school's investigation," the coach had said, not quite meeting Jason's eyes. "I've also had 3 college scouts contact me to say they're no longer interested in recruiting you. They don't want the bad publicity." Jason had felt his future crumbling with each word. "Coach, please, basketball is everything to me." "Then you should have thought about that before you decided to bully someone," Coach Williams had said, his voice hard. "You know what I told those scouts? I told them I agreed with their decision. Because I don't want players on my team who think it's okay to hurt people weaker than them. That's not what sports is about." Now sitting in his mandatory counseling session with Dr. Martinez, Jason felt the full weight of what he'd lost. The counselor's office was small, with comfortable chairs and walls painted in soft colors meant to be calming. It didn't help. "Tell me what you're feeling right now," Dr. Martinez said. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes but a no-nonsense attitude. Jason had been seeing her twice a week as part of the school's response to the incident. "I feel like my life is over," Jason said honestly. "Everyone hates me. I can't play basketball. Colleges don't want me. My parents are getting sued and they're barely speaking to me. And everywhere I go, people recognize me from that stupid video." "That video showed you bullying someone," Dr. Martinez pointed out. "Do you think people are wrong to judge you for that?" Jason wanted to say yes, wanted to defend himself. But he'd learned in these sessions that Dr. Martinez didn't accept excuses. "I guess not," he admitted. "But it's like that one moment defines my entire life now. Nobody cares about anything else I've done. That one moment." Dr. Martinez raised an eyebrow. "Jason, Dr. Richardson documented 12 separate incidents of you bullying Maya over 6 months. This wasn't one moment. This was a pattern of behavior. I know, but most of those were just small things." "Small to you," Dr. Martinez interrupted. "Not small to Maya. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been truly afraid?" "Physically afraid?" Jason thought about it. "I mean, not really. I'm pretty big, so..." "Exactly. You've never had to be afraid because you're tall, you're strong, you're male. But Maya is small. She's female. She's black in a mostly white school. And you used your size and your popularity to intimidate her. Do you understand why that's especially problematic?" Jason shifted uncomfortably. "Because she couldn't fight back, partly, but also because you reinforced every fear she already had about being different, about standing out. You made her believe that the world was hostile to her just for existing." Dr. Martinez leaned forward. "Jason, I want you to do an exercise. Close your eyes. Why? Just do it." Jason closed his eyes reluctantly. "Now I want you to imagine walking into school tomorrow. But here's the catch. You're now 5 feet tall and you weigh 90 pounds. You're the only person who looks like you in the entire school. Everyone else is different and they all seem to know each other. Got it?" "Yeah, I guess." "Now imagine that there's someone much bigger than you, someone popular and powerful who's decided they don't like you. Every day you don't know what they're going to do. Will they just say something mean? Will they push you? Will they humiliate you in front of everyone? You can't predict it, so you're always on edge, always worried. How do you feel?" Jason kept his eyes closed, really trying to imagine it. His stomach tightened. "Scared," he admitted quietly. "Really scared. Good. Now hold on to that feeling. Because that's what you put Maya through. Every single day for 6 months, she came to school with that fear in her stomach, wondering what you'd do to her." Dr. Martinez let him sit with that for a moment. "You can open your eyes now." Jason opened his eyes and he was surprised to find them wet. "I didn't think about it like that," he said. Everyone was laughing. It felt like we were just messing around. "That's the problem with bullying," Dr. Martinez said. "To the bully and their friends, it's entertainment. To the victim, it's torture. And you chose to torture someone who had never done anything to you. So what do I do now?" Jason asked, his voice breaking slightly. "How do I fix this?" Dr. Martinez was quiet for a moment. "I'm not sure you can fix it, Jason, not completely. Maya will carry the trauma of what you did to her for a long time, maybe forever. But what you can do is make sure you never do it again. To anyone. And you can become the kind of person who stops others from doing it." "Nobody's going to listen to me," Jason said bitterly. "I'm the guy from the video. I'm the bully. Right now, yes. But people can change. Not overnight and not easily. It takes real work and real accountability. You have to sit with the discomfort of what you've done. You can't minimize it or make excuses. You have to truly understand the harm you caused and commit to being different." Jason was quiet, processing her words. "Do you think Maya will ever forgive me?" "I don't know," Dr. Martinez said honestly. "But here's something important. You don't get to ask for her forgiveness. You don't get to demand closure or absolution. Maya owes you nothing." 2 weeks had passed since the cafeteria incident, and Jason Hendricks was discovering what it felt like to be invisible. The same hallways where students used to call out his name and slap his back now went silent when he walked by. People moved aside, but not out of respect anymore. They moved because they didn't want to be associated with him. He sat alone at lunch now. His usual table, the one right in the center of the cafeteria where all the popular kids gathered, had new occupants. Tyler sat there with the rest of the basketball team, laughing at something Marcus said. Jason had tried to sit there on the first day back, and Tyler had looked at him with cold eyes and said, "Spot's taken, man." The message was clear. Jason Hendricks was no longer welcome. His phone buzzed constantly, but not with the usual messages from friends. Instead, it was notifications from the video. People he'd never met were commenting, sharing, making memes out of the moment Dr. Richardson had confronted him. His face was everywhere, tagged with words like bully, coward, and pathetic. But the worst part wasn't the strangers online. It was the people at school who had witnessed everything. The freshmen who used to look up to him now whispered and pointed when he passed. Teachers gave him disappointed looks. Even the cafeteria ladies who used to give him extra portions now served him without making eye contact. Jason had a mandatory counseling session every Tuesday and Thursday with Dr. Martinez. She was the school's counselor, a woman in her 50s with graying hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her office was small, decorated with motivational posters that Jason found irritating. "You are stronger than you think. Choose kindness." They all felt like personal attacks now. "How are you feeling today, Jason?" Dr. Martinez asked as he slumped into the chair across from her desk. "How do you think I'm feeling?" Jason shot back, his voice sharper than he intended. "My life is ruined. Everyone hates me. I can't even eat lunch without people staring." Dr. Martinez didn't flinch at his tone. She'd heard it all before. "I asked how you're feeling, not what's happening around you. What emotions are you experiencing?" Jason wanted to say he was angry. Angry at Maya for telling her mother. Angry at Dr. Richardson for making such a big deal out of everything. Angry at his friends for abandoning him. But sitting in that quiet office with Dr. Martinez's steady gaze on him, something else came out. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared that this is it. That I've messed up so bad that nothing I do will ever matter again." Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. "Fear is a reasonable response. You're facing real consequences for your actions. But I want you to think about something. For 6 months, Maya felt that same fear every single day because of you. Can you understand that?" Jason's first instinct was to argue, to say it wasn't the same thing. But the words died in his throat. He thought about Maya sitting alone at her table, the way she'd keep her head down, how she'd flinch slightly when he walked past. He'd noticed those things before, but they'd never meant anything to him. They were just signs that his intimidation was working. Now, sitting in Dr. Martinez's office, feeling like the walls were closing in on him, he wondered if this was how Maya had felt. Trapped, helpless, afraid of what would happen next. "I didn't think about it like that," Jason said finally. "I just thought, I don't know what I thought. That she could handle it? That it wasn't that serious? Let me tell you something about bullying," Dr. Martinez said, leaning forward. "Bullies almost never think what they're doing is that bad. They minimize it in their minds because facing the full truth of the harm they're causing is uncomfortable. But the person being bullied, they live with it every moment. It affects their sleep, their appetite, their ability to focus. It changes how they see the world." She pulled out a folder from her desk drawer and opened it. The school asked Maya to write a statement about her experience. She agreed with her mother's permission. "I'm going to read you part of it. You need to hear this." Jason's stomach tightened. He wasn't sure he wanted to hear what Maya had written, but he knew he didn't have a choice. Dr. Martinez began reading in a steady, clear voice. "I started having nightmares about school. In them, I'm always running through empty hallways trying to find somewhere safe. But Jason and his friends are around every corner. I'd wake up with my heart racing and realize I had to go to school in a few hours and face them for real. The dreams were scary, but reality was worse because in reality there was no waking up from it." Jason felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. He'd given Maya nightmares. The thought had never occurred to him. He'd seen bullying in movies and TV shows where it seemed like no big deal, just part of growing up. The victims always bounced back. They found their confidence or stood up to the bully and everything worked out. But this was real life. And in real life, Maya had suffered because of him. She writes more, Dr. Martinez continued. "I stopped eating lunch because my stomach would hurt so much from anxiety. I lost 12 pounds. My mom noticed, but I kept making excuses. I told her I was just eating at school. I couldn't tell her the truth because I was afraid it would make things worse. I thought if the teachers couldn't stop Jason, what could my mom do? I felt completely alone. Dr. Martinez closed the folder and looked at Jason. His face had gone pale, and there were tears in his eyes that he was trying desperately to blink away. 12 pounds, Dr. Martinez said quietly. A 15-year-old girl lost 12 pounds because you made her too anxious to eat. Do you understand the severity of what you did now? Jason nodded, not trusting his voice. He'd never thought of himself as a bad person. Sure, he could be a jerk sometimes, but didn't everyone mess around? Didn't everyone pick on someone weaker occasionally? That's what he'd told himself. But hearing Maya's words, understanding the real impact of his actions, made him realize he'd been lying to himself. I don't know how to fix this, Jason said, his voice cracking. A tear escaped and rolled down his cheek. He wiped it away quickly, embarrassed. I can't take it back. I can't undo what I did. No, you can't, Dr. Martinez agreed. And that's something you're going to have to live with. But what you can do is make a choice right now about who you want to be going forward. You can either let this destroy you, make you bitter and resentful, or you can let it transform you into someone better. How? Jason asked desperately. How do I become better when everyone's already decided who I am? Dr. Martinez stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the school parking lot. You start by taking real responsibility. Not just saying, I'm sorry because you got caught, but truly understanding why what you did was wrong. You've started that process today by listening to Maya's words. That's harder than you think. Most bullies never want to hear how they've hurt their victims. She turned back to face him. Next, you have to change your behavior. Not just toward Maya, but toward everyone. You need to examine why you thought it was okay to treat someone that way in the first place. Was it because your friends thought it was cool? Because it made you feel powerful? Because you could get away with it? Jason thought about it. All of those reasons felt true. He'd liked the way his friends laughed when he made fun of Maya. He'd liked feeling powerful. And yeah, he'd thought he could get away with it because he always had before. All of those, he admitted. I wanted people to think I was funny. I wanted to be the center of attention. And Maya was just easy. She never fought back. She never fought back because she was outnumbered and overpowered. Dr. Martinez corrected. Not fighting back isn't the same as accepting what's happening. She was surviving the only way she knew how. And when that didn't work, she did what took even more courage. She told someone who could help her. Jason nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand that Maya wasn't weak like he'd thought. She'd been strong in ways he'd never recognized. She'd endured his cruelty for months, documented everything, and then she'd fought back using the truth. That took a kind of courage Jason wasn't sure he possessed. My parents are barely talking to me, Jason said, changing the subject slightly. They're facing a lawsuit because of what I did. My dad had to hire an expensive lawyer. My mom cries a lot. I've ruined everything for them too. Your parents are adults who can handle their own consequences, Dr. Martinez said. And honestly, Jason, part of the reason you thought you could bully Maya is because you've never really faced consequences before. Your parents have always protected you, smoothed things over, made problems disappear. That's partly their responsibility, not just yours, that was true. Jason had been suspended twice before, and both times his dad had made calls and donated money until the suspension was reduced. When Jason had gotten caught cheating on a test sophomore year, his mom had argued with the teacher until they agreed to let him retake it. He'd learned that rules didn't really apply to him, not in any meaningful way until now. Dr. Richardson wasn't accepting donations or apologies. She wasn't making this go away. She was making sure Jason understood that actions had real, lasting consequences. The restraining order means I have to avoid Maya completely, Jason said, but she transferred schools anyway. Why does it even matter? It matters because it's about respect and accountability, Dr. Martinez explained. Maya shouldn't have to worry about running into you anywhere. She shouldn't have to organize her life around avoiding her bully. The restraining order puts that responsibility on you, where it belongs. The session was almost over. Dr. Martinez glanced at the clock on her wall and then back at Jason. I want to give you homework this week. I want you to write a letter to Maya. You won't send it. She doesn't want contact with you, and that needs to be respected. But I want you to write it anyway. Tell her what you understand now about how you hurt her. Don't make excuses. Don't ask for forgiveness. Just acknowledge the truth of what you did. Jason felt his throat tighten again. Writing that letter would mean facing everything head-on. No minimizing, no looking away. But he nodded. Okay, I'll do it. As he left Dr. Martinez's office and walked back into the hallway, Jason felt different somehow. Not better, exactly. The shame and regret were still there, heavy in his chest. But maybe, just maybe, he was starting to understand. And understanding was the first step toward actually changing. He just hoped it wasn't too late. Maya Richardson stood in front of her new locker at Riverside Academy, carefully arranging her books. The hallway smelled different here, like fresh paint and floor polish instead of the stale cafeteria odor that had filled Riverside High. Everything about this place was different, and for the first time in months, Maya felt like she could breathe. Hey, you're the new girl, right? A voice beside her made Maya tense up automatically, her shoulders pulling inward. But when she turned, she saw a girl with bright eyes and a genuine smile, not the mocking grins she'd gotten used to at her old school. Yeah, I'm Maya, she said carefully, waiting for the other shoe to drop. In her experience, friendly approaches usually led to cruel punchlines. I'm Sophie. I'm in your AP Physics class. I saw your name on the roster. Sophie adjusted her backpack and tilted her head. Want me to show you where the science lab is? It's kind of hidden on the 3rd floor. Maya hesitated. Trust didn't come easily anymore. But something about Sophie seemed genuine. Sure, that would be helpful. As they walked through the hallways, Maya noticed how different the atmosphere was. Students actually said excuse me when they passed. Teachers smiled and greeted her by name, having clearly taken time to learn who the new student was. Nobody shoved past her or knocked her books down. It was such a stark contrast that Maya kept waiting for something bad to happen. So why'd you transfer mid-semester? Sophie asked as they climbed the stairs. If you don't mind me asking. Maya had prepared an answer for this question. Just needed a change. Fresh start, you know? Sophie nodded like she understood, and mercifully didn't push for more details. Maya was grateful. The last thing she wanted was for everyone at her new school to know her as that girl from the video. The video had millions of views now, but she was hoping that in a different school, she could just be Maya again. Not Maya the victim. Just Maya. Her first class was American history, and Maya slid into a seat near the back out of habit. But then she remembered she didn't need to hide here. Nobody was looking for her, waiting to humiliate her. Slowly, she moved her books to a desk in the 3rd row, right by the window where natural light streamed in. When the teacher, Mrs. Chen, called roll and got to Maya's name, she looked up with a warm smile. Maya Richardson, welcome to Riverside Academy. Class, let's make sure Maya feels at home here. A few students turned and waved or smiled. One boy gave her a thumbs up. It was such a small thing, but Maya felt her eyes burn with unexpected tears. This was what school was supposed to feel like, safe, welcoming, normal. At lunch, Sophie found her again. Come sit with us, she said, gesturing to a table where 3 other girls were already eating. These are my friends. That's Jamie, Priya, and Luz. The girls all greeted her warmly, making space at the table. They talked about normal things, upcoming tests, a movie they wanted to see, debate about whether the cafeteria's pizza was actually edible. Nobody asked Maya invasive questions. Nobody made her feel like an outsider. For the first time in 6 months, Maya ate a full lunch. She hadn't even realized how much her stomach had unclenched until she finished her sandwich and noticed the empty wrapper. At Riverside High, she'd barely managed a few bites before anxiety made her feel sick. You okay? Priya asked, noticing Maya had gone quiet. Yeah, Maya said, and she meant it. I'm really okay. That evening, Maya sat at the kitchen table doing homework while her mother prepared dinner. The house smelled like garlic and herbs, comforting and normal. Dr. Richardson moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, checking on something in the oven while stirring a pot on the stove. How was your first day? Her mother asked, glancing over her shoulder. Good, Maya said, and then corrected herself. Actually, really good. The school is nice. The people are nice. I ate lunch. Dr. Richardson stopped stirring and turned around completely, her eyes soft. Baby, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. I was scared, Maya admitted. I kept waiting for something bad to happen. Like someone would recognize me from the video, or there'd be another Jason waiting around the corner. But there wasn't. It was just normal. Her mother walked over and sat down across from her. You know what you did was incredibly brave, right? Telling me what was happening, letting me fight for you, starting over at a new school. A lot of people would have just tried to endure it. I was enduring it, Maya said quietly. For months. I kept thinking if I just made myself smaller, quieter, more invisible, maybe he'd stop. But he didn't. It just got worse. That's because bullies don't stop when you make yourself small, Dr. Richardson said firmly. They stop when someone stands up to them, when there are consequences. You gave me the information I needed to make that happen. Maya nodded, then asked the question that had been bothering her. Mom, do you think Jason learned anything? Or is he just mad that he got caught? Dr. Richardson was quiet for a moment, considering her answer carefully. I don't know, baby. I hope he learned something. I hope he understands the harm he caused. But whether he does or not isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is to heal and move forward. I wrote something, Maya said suddenly, pulling out her journal from her backpack. Dr. Martinez, the counselor at Riverside High, asked me to write about my experience. She said Jason is in counseling now and she wanted him to understand what he did. I agreed to let her read him some of it. How did that feel? Her mother asked. Writing it all down? Hard, Maya admitted. Really hard. I had to relive everything, but also good, like I was taking back my story. He tried to make me feel powerless, but telling my truth in my own words made me feel powerful instead. Dr. Richardson reached across the table and squeezed Maya's hand. That's exactly what it is. He tried to write your story as one where you were weak and he was strong, but the truth is the opposite. You're the strong one. You survived. You fought back, and now you're thriving. Maya looked down at her journal, at the pages filled with her small, neat handwriting, dates and times and descriptions of what Jason had done, but also her feelings, her fears, her hopes. It was all there, her truth in black and white. The lawsuit is moving forward, Dr. Richardson said, changing the subject slightly. The school district is trying to settle, but we're not accepting their first offer. We want real changes, not just money. New policies, training for staff, a proper reporting system for bullying. What about Jason? What's going to happen to him? He's facing a civil suit from us. The criminal charges were dropped because the DA didn't think they'd stick, but the restraining order is in place for a year. He's also been suspended from his basketball team and is in mandatory counseling. Several colleges have withdrawn their recruitment interest. Maya tried to figure out how she felt about that. Part of her felt satisfied that Jason was facing consequences, but another part of her, a surprisingly large part, just felt sad. Sad that any of this had happened. Sad that someone had chosen to hurt her for no reason. Sad that his whole future was now different because of choices he'd made when he was 15. Is it weird that I don't hate him? Maya asked quietly. Her mother considered this. No, baby. That's not weird. That's compassion. It means you understand that people are complex. That even people who hurt us are still human beings who make mistakes. But compassion doesn't mean forgetting what happened or accepting his behavior. You can acknowledge his humanity while still holding him accountable. Maya nodded. That made sense. She didn't want Jason's life to be ruined forever, but she also never wanted to see him again. Both of those things could be true at the same time. There's something else, Dr. Richardson said. Other families have reached out to me. 7 families whose children have also been bullied at Riverside High. We're organizing, filing a class action suit against the school district. Your case was the catalyst, but this is bigger than just what happened to you. Really? Maya felt a strange mix of emotions. She didn't want other kids to have suffered like she had, but knowing she wasn't alone somehow made her feel less isolated. Really? One of the mothers said something that stuck with me. She said, "Thank you for being loud when our kids couldn't be." That's what happened, Maya. You found your voice even though it took time. And now other people are finding theirs too. Maya thought about that as she returned to her homework. She'd spent so long trying to be invisible, thinking that was the safest option. But invisibility hadn't protected her. What had protected her was visibility, making herself seen, making her story heard, refusing to disappear. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. Study group tomorrow after school for the physics test. You in? Maya smiled and typed back. Definitely in. She had friends now. Real friends who liked her for who she was. She had a school where she felt safe. She had a mother who had fought for her and taught her to fight for herself. And she had something else, something she'd lost during those 6 months of torment. She had hope. Not naive hope that everything would always be okay. Maya had learned that lesson too well, but hope that even when bad things happened, even when people were cruel, There was still good in the world. There were still people who would stand up for you. There were still second chances and fresh starts. As she worked on her math homework, Maya felt lighter than she had in months. The nightmares were starting to fade. Her appetite had returned. She was sleeping through the night again. The damage Jason had done wasn't completely healed. Probably never would be completely, but she was healing. Day by day, moment by moment, she was getting better, and that was enough. For now, that was more than enough. 3 months had passed since that day in the cafeteria, and the conference room at the school district headquarters was packed. Maya sat between her mother and their lawyer, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Across the long wooden table sat representatives from the school district, their lawyers, and Principal Stevens, who looked like he'd aged 10 years. At a separate table sat the Hendricks family with their legal team. Jason kept his eyes down, refusing to look at Maya. His mother's face was pale and drawn. His father's jaw was clenched tight. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Let's begin," said the mediator, an older woman named Mrs. Patterson who specialized in educational discrimination cases. "We're here to discuss the settlement terms for the Richardson case and the related class action suit involving 7 other families." Dr. Richardson cleared her throat. "Before we talk about settlement, I want to say something directly." She looked across the room at Principal Stevens. "For months, multiple families came to you with complaints about bullying. You did nothing. You created a culture where certain students believed they were untouchable, and other students learned they were unprotected." Principal Stevens shifted uncomfortably. "Dr. Richardson, we have policies in place. Policies that weren't followed." She cut him off sharply. "I have documentation showing that complaints were filed and ignored." "That's not a policy problem. That's a leadership problem." The district superintendent, Mr. Crawford, leaned forward. "We acknowledge that mistakes were made. That's why we're prepared to offer a substantial settlement. We're offering the Richardson family $250,000, plus coverage of all legal fees and counseling costs for Maya." Maya felt her mother's hand tighten slightly on her arm. That was a lot of money, more money than Maya had ever thought about. For a moment, she wondered if this was it, if they'd take the money and this would all be over. But her mother shook her head. "The money isn't enough. We want systemic change." The superintendent blinked, clearly surprised. "What kind of change?" Dr. Richardson pulled out a document and slid it across the table. "These are our terms. First, Principal Stevens needs to be removed from his position. He had multiple opportunities to protect students and failed repeatedly." Principal Stevens's face went red. "Now wait just a minute." "Second," Dr. Richardson continued, her voice calm but unyielding, "the district will implement mandatory anti-bullying training for all staff, not just a one-time workshop, but ongoing training every semester. Third, there will be a new reporting system where students can report bullying anonymously, and every report will be investigated by an independent party, not just school administration." She wasn't finished. "Fourth, the district will hire 2 full-time counselors specifically focused on student well-being and conflict resolution. Fifth, there will be quarterly reports to the school board about bullying incidents and how they were handled. And sixth, all of this will be monitored by an independent oversight committee that includes parents, students, and community members." The room was silent. The district's lawyers were frantically whispering to each other. Mr. Crawford looked like he'd been hit by a truck. "Dr. Richardson," one of the district lawyers began, "these demands are excessive. The cost of implementing all of this is less than the cost of a prolonged legal battle that you will lose," Dr. Richardson said flatly. "I have 7 families ready to testify about discrimination and negligence. I have video evidence that's been viewed by millions of people. I have medical records, counseling reports, and a paper trail showing systematic failure to protect students. Do you really want this to go to trial?" Maya watched her mother in awe. This was Dr. Richardson, the prosecutor, the woman who had built her career on fighting for justice. She was magnificent. The mediator cleared her throat. "Let's take a 15-minute recess so both parties can discuss these terms." As the district representatives filed out of the room, Maya turned to her mother. "Mom, that's a lot of money they offered. Are you sure about this?" Dr. Richardson took her daughter's hands. "Baby money doesn't change systems. Money doesn't protect the next child who might be bullied. We have an opportunity here to make real, lasting change. That's worth more than any settlement check." Their lawyer, Mr. Winters, nodded in agreement. "Your mother's right, Maya. What she's asking for will help thousands of students, not just you. That's the bigger picture. Across the room, Maya could hear raised voices as the Hendricks family argued with their lawyers. She caught snippets of the conversation. Just settle. Can't afford to drag this out. Jason's future. Jason himself sat silently, staring at his hands. Maya studied him for a moment. He looked smaller somehow, like the confidence and swagger had been stripped away, leaving just a scared teenager who'd made terrible choices. She didn't feel hatred when she looked at him anymore. Mostly she felt nothing. He was just someone who had hurt her once, but didn't have power over her anymore. When everyone returned to the conference room, Mr. Crawford looked defeated. We need time to review these terms with the school board. This isn't a decision we can make today. You have 1 week, Dr. Richardson said firmly. After that, we proceed to trial. And I promise you, everything will come out. Every ignored complaint, every covered-up incident, every failure of leadership. It will all be public record. The superintendent nodded slowly. 1 week, understood. Then something unexpected happened. Patricia Hendricks stood up, her voice shaking slightly. Dr. Richardson, may I say something? Everyone turned to look at her. Dr. Richardson nodded cautiously. Go ahead. I want to apologize, Patricia said, tears in her eyes. To you and to Maya. As a mother, I failed. I raised a son who thought it was okay to hurt people. I made excuses for his behavior instead of holding him accountable. And when you came to us with evidence of what he'd done, my first instinct was to protect him instead of acknowledging the harm he'd caused. She turned to Maya directly. Maya, I am so sorry for what my son put you through. No child should ever feel unsafe at school. Jason's actions were inexcusable, and I should have raised him better. Jason looked up at his mother, surprised. There were tears on his cheeks, too. Maya didn't know what to say. She hadn't expected an apology from Jason's mother. After a moment, she simply said, Thank you for saying that. Patricia nodded and sat back down, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. The mediator looked around the room. I think this is a good place to end today's session. The district will review Dr. Richardson's terms and respond within 1 week. The Hendricks family's settlement is separate and will be negotiated privately. As people began gathering their things, Jason suddenly stood up. Wait, he said, his voice rough. I want to say something too. Everyone froze. Dr. Richardson's eyes narrowed, protective instincts kicking in. Jason, I don't think... Please, Jason said, looking directly at Maya for the first time. I need to say this. Maya felt her mother's hand on her shoulder, ready to intervene if needed. But Maya nodded slightly. She wanted to hear what Jason had to say. Jason took a deep breath. Maya, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know saying sorry doesn't undo the nightmares or the anxiety or the months of hell I put you through. But I need you to know that I understand now. I understand what I did was wrong. Not just because I got caught, but because I hurt you. Really hurt you, his voice cracked. Dr. Martinez made me read your statement about how you lost weight and had nightmares and felt alone. I did that to you. I made you feel that way because I thought it was funny. Because I wanted to look cool in front of my friends. That's messed up. I was messed up, he wiped his eyes. I'm in therapy now. I'm trying to understand why I thought it was okay to treat someone like that. And I'm trying to be better. I know you don't care about that, and you don't have to. You don't owe me anything, but I wanted you to know that your story, your truth, it changed me. It made me see what I really was. The room was completely silent. Maya felt her own eyes burning with tears. This wasn't the cocky, cruel Jason from the cafeteria. This was someone who seemed genuinely broken by what he'd done. I don't forgive you, Maya said quietly, but clearly, not yet. Maybe not ever. What you did to me was terrible, and I'm still dealing with it. Jason nodded, accepting her words. But, Maya continued, I hope you do become better, not for me, but for whoever else might have become your target. I hope you learn enough that you never make someone feel the way you made me feel. I won't, Jason said, his voice thick with emotion. I promise I won't. Dr. Richardson stood up, signaling that the conversation was over. Thank you for your apology, Jason, but Maya's right. Words are just words. What matters now is action, yours and the school district's. As they left the conference room, Maya felt strange, lighter somehow. She hadn't forgiven Jason, wasn't sure she ever would fully, but hearing him acknowledge what he'd done, seeing him broken down and honest, had given her something she didn't know she needed. Validation, Acknowledgement that she hadn't been crazy or too sensitive. That what happened to her was real and wrong. In the parking lot, her mother hugged her tight. "You were amazing in there, baby. So strong and clear about what you needed." "I learned from the best," Maya said, hugging her back.